Alright, so we're going to talk about opposites and absolute value of rational numbers. So we're going to again start with a number line, but this time when I make my number line, I'm going to change it just a little bit so that instead of each line being 1, each line will be 1/2. Because remember, rational numbers include the numbers in between your integers. So I take a number, let's say 1/2, and the absolute value of 1/2 is going to be right there on my number line. It's going to be 1/2 from 0. So your absolute value of 1/2 is also 1/2. If I wanted to find the opposite of that, I would have to go the other direction. So I'd go 1/2 the opposite direction. So the opposite of 1/2 would be negative 1/2. So let's do another example. So let's say I have the number negative 2 1/4. Now remember, I set up my number line in half, so 2 1/4 is not going to be on a line, on my number line. But I can still graph it on my number line. So I'm going to go to negative 2 1/4. So I'm going to go to negative 2, and then the next line would be half. So I want halfway in between the half and the negative 2. So I'm going to put a dot right there. So that's where the negative 2 1/4 is. And so if we're thinking absolute value, it's 1, 2, and 1/4. So the absolute value of negative 2 1/4 is going to be 2 1/4. Now if we want to find the opposite of negative 2 1/4, it's the same thing. We go 2 1/4, just the opposite direction. So the opposite of negative 2 1/4 is also 2 1/4. So when you're dealing with a negative number, the opposite of the negative number is going to be the same as your absolute value. But if you're working with a positive number, the absolute value is going to be opposite your opposite value. And this works the same if your number is a decimal as it does a fraction. So say our number is negative 1 3/4, or 75/100. So find that on the number line. So we're going to go to negative 1 and then 3/4 more. So that's going to be halfway between that negative 2 and the line closest to it. So negative 1 3/4 would be, or 1 75/100 would be right there on the number line. So our absolute value is 1 and then 75/100. So our absolute value of negative 1 75/100 would be 1 75/100. And because that was a negative number, the opposite is also 1 75/100. So a decimal is going to work exactly the same as a fraction when it comes to opposites and absolute value.